Hello and welcome to Maths and Science 8. In this video, we'll be going through the grade 12 Maths Paper 1 Gauteng 2023 Prep exam. And we'll be specifically looking into question 1, 1.1. This is a solve for x question. We will start with 1.1.1 and 1.1.2, which are very simple questions. So we'll just highlight few things about these questions and then move on to 1.1.3, which is an inequality. This is a question that most students usually find to be confusing. And then we'll finish off with 1.1.4, which was quite an interesting question. So let us get straight into it. In question 1.1, we have got a quadratic equation, but it is given in the standard form ax plus p all squared plus q equal to 0. And in this case, because the value of q here is negative, and specifically negative 4, we can quickly solve this without expanding the bracket. So what we can do is we can take down the bracket first with its square, and then we can move the 4 to the right hand side. And then after that, we can just simply apply a square root on both sides of the equation. Not forgetting that here we must have a plus or minus. And then obviously the square root will cancel the square. And we are going to be left with 2x plus 1 equals to plus or minus the square root of 4, which is 2. And there you have it. Now you can just simply say that 2x plus 1 is equal to positive 2, or 2x plus 1 is equal to negative 2, and then solve for x, which is very simple from here on. So I'll just leave it here for you guys to finish it. Now, 1.1.2 is another straightforward question. It's also a quadratic equation, but in brackets, they have said that we must correct to 2 decimal places, which is a hint that here we must just simply use the quadratic formula. And so here, all that you need to do is to arrange the terms in the standard form, and after that, just substitute into the quadratic equation. So the most important thing here is to make sure that you write this equation as 4x squared plus 12x minus 11 equals to 0, because that is the standard form of a quadratic equation. It's ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So that's all that you need to do. And then after that, you can just easily see that a is equal to 4, b is equal to 12, and c is equal to negative 11. And you know that the quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And so you just simply need to substitute in all the values and then just punch that into your calculator as it is. All right. And you can either start by writing the positive here to get the first value of x, and then write the negative in order to get the second value of x in your calculator. So that is how you can do 1.1.1 and 1.1.2. Now let us move on to 1.1.3, the inequality. All right. So here we've got 15x minus 4 is less than 9x squared. So this is a quadratic inequality. So as usual, the first thing is to make sure that the quadratic expression is written in the standard form. So what we can do here is we can move the 9x squared into the left hand side. So that is going to give us negative 9x squared. And then we have positive 15x, and we have got negative 4. And this is less than, it's now going to be less than 0 because we have moved or transposed the positive 9x squared. Right. And now this is our standard form. However, the value of a is negative, and you usually want that to be positive. So what we can do here is we can divide or multiply by -1 throughout this inequality. So for an example, we can divide here by -1, divide here by -1, divide here by -1, and divide there by -1 as well. So we are now going to get positive 9x squared minus 15x plus 4. And now, if you are dividing or multiplying an inequality by a negative number, then the direction of the inequality changes. So this will change from a less than to a greater than 0, because obviously 0 divided by -1 is still gonna remain to be 0. And now, this is a standard form. What we need to do from here on is to work out the critical values of this inequality. For a quadratic inequality, you need to start off by working out the critical values, which are basically the values of x that would make this expression to be equal to 0. Therefore, we are just going to solve this expression as if it was equal to 0. So we can just simply use the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. And now let us substitute into the quadratic formula. So b is negative 15 plus or minus the square root of negative 15 squared minus 4. A is 9 and C is positive 4. And then we must divide all of this by 2 multiplied by A. So A is, of course, 9. All right. So let us continue with our calculation on this side. So now we need to just simply punch this into our calculator and find the values of x. So you can also do this with me on your side, but I will also demonstrate here. I will also take out my calculator. Okay, so here's our calculator, but let me just clearly show here that this division is applying to both of these terms. So we are gonna input this into our calculator as it is. So we have negative into negative 15, and I'll start with a plus square root of negative 15 minus 4 into 9 into 4 divided by 2 into 9. So what is this equal to? Oh, I forgot to square my 15 here. So this is equal to positive 4 over 3. And 4 over 3 is actually 1,3333. So we can just round this into 2 decimal places. So our first critical value is x is equal to 1,33. And so in order for us to find the next one or the second one, we will just change that positive there into a negative. So this gives us positive 1 over 3. So 1 over 3 is 0.3, and it's a recurring decimal. So we'll also round this into 2 decimal places. So the second critical value is x is equal to 0.33. Okay, so those are our critical values. Now, I'm going to propose that we use the number line method. So you need to simply draw a number line like that, and on this number line, you are going to label your critical values. So in this case, the number that comes first is 0.33. So we're gonna start with 0.33, and then 1.33 is obviously bigger than 0.33, so we will write it there. So as we have said before, the critical values are the values where this expression is equal to 0. So we will write zeros on top of them in order to depict that. Now, what we need to do is we need to see whether what is the sign of this expression if x, for an example, is less than 0.33. And then after that, we'll also determine whether what is the sign of this expression if x is in between 0.33 and 1.33. And then lastly, we'll also determine the sign of the expression if x is greater than 1.33. Okay, so how do we go about doing that? Well, we can just simply use our calculator. And what we are going to do is we will take any number that is less than 0.33 and substitute it into our expression, which is already in the standard form. That is important. And for an example, we can take a value like 0 in this case. We can use 0 because 0 is less than 0.33. And then here we can use a value like 1 because 1 is a value that is in between 0.33 and 1.33. And an example of a value of x we can use that is greater than 1.33 would be 2. You can just use small and simple values like that. Well, for this one, we actually don't even need to use our calculator because we can see that 9 into 0 minus 15 into 0 plus 4 is simply going to be equal to 4, right? And what is important is that it's a positive 4. So the sign of the expression is positive for values that are less than 0.33. Now, if we substitute in 1, then that would be 9 into 1 squared. There is a squared even there, but it makes no difference. Minus 15 into 1 plus 4. Well, this one is going to be 9 because 9 multiplied by 1 squared is 9. Okay, no need to write it there. But this is going to be 9 minus 15 plus 4. Well, I'll just use my calculator. 9 minus 15 plus 4 is equal to negative 2. So this is equal to negative 2, and what is important is the negative because it's telling us that for values that are in between 0.33 and 1.33, this expression is negative. And now last but not least, we are going to take 2 as a value that will represent x greater than 1.33. So we substitute it into our expression, and then we need to determine the value that we would get here. Well, I'll just solve this into my calculator as it is minus 15 into 2 plus 4. And this is equal to 10 in this case. 10, and not just 10 but positive 10, meaning that for values of x that are greater than 1,33, our expression is positive. Okay, so now we are going to use this information that is given by our number line in order to work out the solution of this inequality. And this is very easy. The inequality that we were solving here is that 9x squared minus 15x plus 4 is greater than 0. So we're looking for values of x that will make this expression to be greater than 0. In other words, greater than 0 means positive, because any number that is greater than 0 is positive. So it means that the values of x that we are looking for are values that are greater than 1,33. So on this side of our number line, and values of x that are less than 0,33, as shown by this arrow on the number line. And it is also important for you to indicate the values of x that are the solution of your inequality on the number line itself. So we can now say that, okay, our solution here is that x is less than 0,33 or x is greater than 1,33 as shown by the number line. And alternatively, you can also use the set notation to express this answer. So we can also write it as x is an element of real numbers from negative infinity to 0,33, and the or is presented by mu. And so from 1,33 up to positive infinity. And obviously we are specifically using the rounded brackets here because in this case we do not have an or equal to, on our inequality here. We only have the inequality sign. There is no or equal to. Okay, so let us now move on to the last question, which is 1.1.4. So let's finish strong with the most interesting question. Okay, so in 1.1.4, we have a square root of 2x minus 2 minus the square root of 7 minus 2x is equal to 1. All right, so how can we work this one out? Well, here, the very first thing that you can do is we can just square both sides of the equation. So we can take the square root of 2x minus 2 minus the square root of 7 minus 2x and square all of that equal to 1 squared. So we can now solve this by expanding, and we can use the shortcut of expanding a perfect square. So this is what I'm talking about. We can start by finding the square of the first term. So if we square the square root of 2x minus 2, the square root will be cancelled and we are going to be left with 2x minus 2. And now, in order to work out the middle term, we need to multiply this term by this term and then multiply that product by 2. So in this case, we are multiplying a square root by another square root. So if you do that from the laws of exponents, you know that you should get the square root of a multiplied by b. And then what we are going to do is we are going to multiply all of this by 2 in order to get 2 square root of A multiplied by B. So if we multiply the square root of 2x minus 2 by negative square root of 7 minus 2x, and then multiply that by 2, we are going to get negative 2 square root of 2x minus 2 into 7 minus 2x. And now to work out the last term, we just need to simply square this term. So we need to find the square of negative square root of 7 minus 2x. And that will give us a positive 7 minus 2x. And then obviously 1 squared is equal to 1. Next is we can just simply add up all the like terms that we have here. And we actually have a positive 2x and a negative 2x. So those are going to cancel each other. And then we have negative 2 plus 7, which is going to give us positive 5. And then we'll have minus 2 into square root. And if we expand these brackets, we are going to have 2x into 7, which is 14x. 2x into negative 2x, which is negative 4x squared. And then we'll have negative 2 into 7, which is negative 14, and negative 2 into negative 2x, which is positive 4x. All of that will be equal to 1. And now we can transpose 5 into the right-hand side, and then we can add up all the like terms that we have under our square root. So we can see that this is a quadratic equation. So we should rearrange the terms such that we start with negative 4x squared. And then we have 14x and 4x, so those terms are going to give us positive 18x, and then the last term will be negative 14, and this is going to be equal to 1 minus 5, which is equal to negative 4. And now we can divide by 2 on both sides of the equation so that we get just the square root of negative 4x squared plus 18x minus 14 equal to negative 4 divided by negative 2, which is positive 2. Right, and now as you can see, we just need to square both sides of the equation once again, which is now going to give us negative 4x squared plus 18x minus 14 equals to 4. And we need to transpose the 4 into the left-hand side so that we have negative 4x squared plus 18x. And then negative 14 minus 4 will be negative 18 equals to 0. And let us divide or multiply by negative 1 throughout the equation so that the value of a here can be positive. So that is going to give us 4x squared minus 18x plus 18 equal to 0. Right, and we can actually also simplify this further by dividing by 2 throughout, because 2 is a common factor between these terms. So that is going to give us 2x squared minus 9x plus 9 equals to 0. And now from here on, you've got two options. You can try to factorize this if it is possible, of course, or if you want to save yourself some time, I would advise that you just simply go for the quadratic formula. And then you can substitute in your values. So B will be -9 and A is 2, C is +9. And now we can just punch this in into a calculator. So we'll have negative into -9, and I'll start with plus square root of -9 squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 multiplied by 2. Alright, so the first value of x is 3, so x is equal to 3. So actually this means that you would have possible factorized that expression. But now let's work out the second value of x. So I'll just change that plus to a minus. So this gives us 3 over 2. So the second value of x is 3 over 2. But now we are not done as yet, because if you are working with an equation that involves a square root, after solving and getting your values of x, you must then check if they are both correct for the equation. So to do that, we obviously need to substitute in these values into the original equation and see if the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. So I'll just start with 3 over 2 since it is already in my calculator. So if we substitute in 3 over 2 into the original equation, we are going to get square root of 2 into answer minus 2 minus the square root of 7 minus 2 into our answer, which is obviously 3 over 2. So let's see if this is gonna give us 1. Well, as you can see, we get -1. But our equation is equal to +1. So this means that 3 over 2 is not part of our solution. So for that equation, x is not equal to 3 over 2. Now let us check +3. So I'll just substitute in 3 in place of x instead. So as you can see, if we input 3, we then get +1, which is exactly what we see in the original equation. So this means that x is equal to 3 is actually the solution of this equation. So that is how you can answer this particular question. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video for the next part of question 1.